Follow along today as I show you how to sew a dog dress with ruffled sleeves. So I decided to go with this pretty little fabric here that I had in my fabric stash, and I also went through the different laces that I have, and I found this one, which I think is quite pretty, and it's probably about 2 inches. Yes, it's 2 inches wide, and I think that'll make for a nice ruffle sleeve. So I'm going to use these and see what we can come up with. First things first, I'm going to cut out 2 pieces for my bodice. I'm going to get my pattern and cut them out of this material. Now that I have my 2 bodice pieces cut out, I'm going to set one of those aside and I'm going to work on the top piece of the bodice. Make sure that you have the bad side facing down and the pretty good side of the fabric facing up. From here, we're going to take our lace or whatever type of border you choose to do, and we're going to determine how much we need in order to make the lace fit in this little bended area. Now it's up to you how far around it goes. You could have it go all the way around so that when this closes around your dog's neck, the lace is all the way around, but I don't find that necessary. So I like to keep it right in this area, kind of tapering off around here and tapering off around here. That way, when this side strap wraps around the dog's body, it's just noticeable to the very end there and then not underneath the belly. And same with this neck strap. So it's just kind of in this portion, but it's totally up to you. So for this small little bodice, I am going to take my lace and kind of lay it about here and shift it around, and I can see that I need about this much, which for me is about 8 inches. And I'm going to add more inches to this because I want to gather it up a bit. I don't think it's necessary to gather it too much because it will be cute coming out of the side strap no matter what. But I am going to add about 3 or 4 more inches here. I'm going to go with 4 more inches. So I have a total of 12 inches here. I was eyeballing it, but I measured. So I've got a 12-inch strip for my small dog, but this is going to vary, like I said, for your dog. So whatever you determine will be the amount you need, go ahead and add a few more inches, if not double it. And then we're going to take our little lace piece to the sewing machine and gather it by running a long running stitch across this bottom portion here, not the pretty edge because this is going to stick out. So I'm going to go over here and gather it on my sewing machine. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back from my sewing machine, and as you can see, these gathered up quite nicely just by using the largest stitch size on my sewing machine and by putting the tension to the highest number, which for me is a 9. And by running it through, it automatically gathered it up. However, if it didn't gather it, you would just take these long strings that you left at the beginning and the end, because we do not backstitch when we're doing a gather like this, and you'll take one of the strings and pull it while shimmying the fabric together in order to get the right amount of gathering. And in the reverse, you could loosen it by pulling it apart. So make sure you do 2 of these, one for each arm. Next, I'm going to bring my bodice back over, my front piece of bodice, and I'm going to take one of my gathered ruffles here and lay it out to make sure it's gathered enough. And I feel like I need mine to be a little looser, so I'm going to pull this little gather apart a little bit at a time, till I get it to fall right where I want. Now I wanted mine about here and here, so this looks pretty good. Next, I'm going to grab some pins or clips. Now, this is a rough edge on the lace, and because when you gather it, it starts to curve a little bit like this, this is helpful to us because I want this edge right here where I cut it off of the roll of lace to actually come out this way. So it'll be caught in the seam, and you see the lace will be a nice pretty edge here. So I am going to pin right here first. And for me, I'm going to use these little clips. So I'm going to clip it right there. And then I'm going to bring my lace up to the edge here. And you could even have it stick over the edge of this a bit if you would like. But basically pretty close to the raw edges. And pin that into place. Make sure you don't have your fabric twisted underneath there. And use as many clips as you need going along the length of this lace up against the curve of the fabric. And again, when we get down here, we want to do the same thing. This portion of the lace that's been cut, we want to get it to the edge of the raw material as well, so that it's not sticking out this way. We want to catch it all in here. So just work with your fabric until you get it just the way you want. And then put in some clips or some pins. And if you feel like this is just too much in your way right there, go ahead and cut that away, which I'm going to do. And then I'll stick my pin on. Well, clip for me. So now I have this one clipped all into place, and I'm going to do the same to the other one. Notice that my ruffle is facing inward on this bodice, and this will not be the way it looks in the end. In the end, this ruffle will stick out this way. But for this purpose of sewing it on, we need to have it laying towards the middle of the bodice, the pretty edge towards the middle. So I'm going to do the other one now. Okay, I have both ruffles pinned into place, and a couple things just to point out to remind you. Make sure the good side of the lace, the side you want to be facing upward in the end of this project, is laying down against your material. So good sides together. Make sure that the edge of the lace that you want to be on the outside with the finished product is going towards the inside at this point. This all needs to be inside so that we can catch it in the seam and put our other piece of bodice on top of this in order to sew them together. So once everything is pinned into place and your lace is laying the right way, go ahead and bring it to the sewing machine and stitch along this edge right here in order to attach our lace. Stay close to the side raw edge here, but make sure you catch both the lace and the material so it's completely secured into place on both sides. All right, I'm back from the sewing machine, and I have attached this ruffle all the way around on both of these curves here, and I've caught both the materials, both the bodice and the lace. So now I'm just gonna flip it over, and I can see the extra overlaying amount of lace and just trim that away so it doesn't become extra bulk inside of our bodice when we close it up. So once you've removed that extra bulk, go ahead and take your extra bodice piece and turn the good side of the fabric upside down, facing the good side of this bottom piece of bodice, and we're gonna line them all up nice and even and pin them together. Make sure when you're pinning these pieces together that this lace is laying inward and not getting in the way of where we will sew along the edge here. Make sure everything's laying nice and flat before you pin it. Once you have it all clipped or pinned into place, you're going to bring it to your sewing machine and sew all the way around the border of this bodice, but we're not going to sew the bottom portion. We're going to leave that open. All right, I'm back from the sewing machine, and I'm going to cut off my corners here, cutting very close to the seam but not through the seam to remove bulk. And I'm also going to cut some little notches around this arm bend and the neck bend in order to remove the bulk, and there will be extra bulk here, especially where we attach the lace, so be sure to not skip this step. And from here we can turn it right side out. Okay, look how cute this turned out. I've ironed it, I got it to lay nice and flat, and the ruffles have turned out just darling. I love it. And wait till you see it on Posy, it'll be adorable. So now all we have to do is add a skirt and put some Velcro on it, and we can try it on. So let's wrap this project up. So I have gone ahead and cut out the length and width of the skirt that I need for Posy, and I've gone ahead and hemmed the sides and all the way along the edge. And now this top rough border will be the part that we gather in order to attach to Posy's bodice. But I'm also going to take some leftover lace that matches the ruffles we put on the arm sleeves, and I'm going to add this to the waistline as well, kind of like a second layer of skirt. So I'm going to gather this up on its own, and I'm going to gather this up on its own, and then I'll attach it to the bodice. So I'm going to bring this over to my sewing machine and run a top stitch all the way along the very edge here, about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, using my largest stitch size and the tightest tension on my machine. And I will do the same to this lace piece. Once you've gathered your skirts, bring them back over, lay your bodice out, and make sure that you have them laying where you want and they're gathered enough or not too much. I think the skirt should fall right between these side straps here. This one looks pretty good, and my little ruffled skirt looks good too. You might be wondering, why wouldn't you just lay both of these two pieces of material together before I gathered it? And the reason is, when you gather them individually, it makes for a more unique ruffle. When they're really uniform and laying on top of each other before they're gathered, this top layer tends to settle into the different grooves that this ruffle makes. When you do them separately, they kind of stand up on top of each other and just make it a little more fluffy and cute and have more character. So yes, it's an option when they're both flat to pin them together and then run it through your machine and gather it. But I think that doing it individually makes for a much cuter skirt. So because I want this to be on the top for the finished product, I'm going to lay it down first. So I'm going to move my bottom skirt out of the way, and I'm going to take this top skirt, which for me is a lace ruffle, and I am going to, if this is the top, I'm going to flip it upside down and lay it across this bodice. Determine where the middle of your skirt is. For me, it's right here. The middle of my bodice is about here, and start pinning from the middle out. That way you have your ruffles kind of dispersed evenly. And just put a few clips in at this point, because remember, we're going to add our other skirt as well. And what I forgot to point out to you guys, and is so important, but it just goes to show that we can forget things, is that I just clipped it to both pieces of the bodice, and that's a no-no. I need to remove these clips, and I need to take this bodice, open it up, and this bottom portion, I need to fold it up out of the way. So I just push it back here so that I have this piece all by itself. From here, I can start pinning my skirt into place. So again, there's my center, upside down, find the center of my bodice and pin it in a few places. Don't put too many clips in, because now we're going to come along with our second skirt. And if this is the way I want it laying in the end of this project with the pretty side up, I'm going to flip it upside down on top of the skirt that we already pinned into place. Find your center, here's mine, and put it right here with the center clip. Simply pick up the layers you've already pinned, lay this new skirt on top of it, and slip your pin or your clip over all 3 layers. And you can add in more clips at this point if you find it necessary, which I do. So I'm going to put in a couple extra ones here. Okay, now that I have both layers of the skirt pinned into place, I have my fabric material skirt, and if I flip it over, I can see I have my lace one. They're all pinned into place right here along the raw edge of the bodice. I've kept the other half of the bodice piece out of the way. So I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and attach all of this by running a seam along the top edge. If you've adjusted your tension in order to make the ruffles, remember to put it back to the appropriate tension for sewing these pieces together. All right, I'm back from the sewing machine and I've attached my skirts, so I'm going to flip it over and see how it turned out. Cut away any extra strings you have. And I think that turned out perfect. I've caught all the layers, kind of give it a little tug here and make sure you don't have any gaps that you missed, and that looks great. So at this point, I'm going to flip it back to the back side and lay this back piece of bodice over, just like this. And I'm going to take the bodice and fold it under one time and cover up all this raw fabric back here, the raw edge, and throw in some pins here to keep it in place. When you get to the side straps, simply tuck them under one time as well and pin or clip into place. Now that I'm pinned all the way into place, I'm going to go back to the sewing machine and sew all the way along this edge from side strap to side strap. And I'm going to go as close to the folded edge of this bodice as I can. We are all done attaching the skirt, and I've attached the bodice on the top and the back. We've got a nice clean edge, and I've even added some Velcro closures to my dress. And right here in the very center, I've gone ahead and added these really adorable little fabric yo-yos. These are very simple to make. I went ahead and made those up in a couple different sizes and put buttons in the center and attached that to the waistline. So I think it turned out really cute, and I'm loving these little ruffled arms on the side. So next, let's try it on Posy. Okay, Miss Posy, let's put this around your neck and your waistline. Fluff up your little ruffly sleeves here. Oh, that is too precious. I love this. This turned out really darling. These ruffles on the arms just give it a little something extra special. They were rather simple to attach, but it just gives your dress a nice frilly look. And you could make these out of fabric, lace. I mean, there's a lot of options, but lace is really easy because you don't have to hem any of the edges. It's already finished for you. And I think that this little yo-yo button center turned out quite cute too. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with this dress, and I hope that you guys will give this method a try. Add some frill to your dresses for your sweet little dogs. You guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so you can keep watching videos on how to make dresses for your sweet little pup.